The Memphis heat hit Maya like a physical thing the moment she stepped off the bus, thick and humid and smelling faintly of fried chicken and blooming magnolias. It was June, and her summer internship at Graceland, the legendary home of Elvis Presley, was officially beginning. She'd pictured something grander, maybe a cool air-conditioned office in a sleek downtown building. Instead, she found herself standing on a bustling street, the iconic white gates of Graceland shimmering in the distance. Maya, a 19-year-old with a messy bun and an old denim jacket she refused to part with, had landed the internship through her university's history department. She was a research assistant, tasked with catalog archival materials and helping with visitor engagement. She knew Elvis, of course, who didn't? But her knowledge was mostly limited to his greatest hits and the broad strokes of his legendary life. She certainly wasn't a superfan, not like the people already milling around the gates, snapping photos and humming Hound Dog. Her first few days were a blur of introductions, orientation videos, and navigating the surprisingly complex layout of the estate. Graceland was more than just a house. It was a compound, a museum, a pilgrimage site. There was the mansion itself, preserved exactly as Elvis left it, a time capsule of 1970s opulence. Then there were the various exhibits, the car museum, the airplanes, the costumes, the gold records, all housed in modern air-conditioned buildings designed to shepherd thousands of visitors through the Elvis experience. Maya's main workstation was in a quiet, climate-controlled back room of the archives, a place filled with neat rows of boxes containing everything from Elvis's old fan mail to his tax returns. But a part of her daily routine also involved spending an hour or two in the visitor center, answering questions, or sometimes just observing the crowds. It was during these observation stints that she started noticing something. Graceland, of course, had its dedicated memorial area, the meditation garden, where Elvis, his parents, and his grandmother were laid to rest. Visitors queued up patiently, walking slowly past the graves, many wiping away tears. There were always flowers, their big professional arrangements sent by fan clubs, dignitaries, or just everyday people wanting to pay their respects. These were usually placed by Graceland staff, part of the official tribute, but then there were the others. The first time she really paid attention was on a Tuesday morning, a relatively quiet day. She was standing near the exit of the mansion tour, watching a family from Japan excitedly compare photos, when a woman, probably in her late 70s with Mitsitsable handbag, approached the meditation garden. She wasn't part of a tour group. She moved with purpose, a small, unassuming bouquet of white roses clutched in her hand. Maya watched as the woman paused at Elvis's grave, her head bowed. She didn't stay long, just a minute or two. Then, with a gentle, almost reverent motion, she placed her roses among the larger, more elaborate arrangements. It was such a small gesture, yet it struck Maya as profoundly intimate. The woman didn't take a picture. She didn't draw attention to herself. She simply placed the flowers, offered a silent moment, and then turned to walk away, blending into the flow of other visitors. Maya blinked. Those roses were different. They weren't from a florist Graceland used, nor did they look like they'd been part of a grand tribute. They looked personal, as if someone had picked them out specifically just for this moment. Who was that? Maya asked. Liam, a seasoned tour guide in his 50s, who'd worked at Graceland for decades. He was leaning against a display case, polishing his name tag. Liam glanced up, his eyes following the woman's retreating figure. He shrugged. Just a fan, honey. Happens all the time. People still come from all over, still bring things. But those weren't the usual flowers Maya pressed. They looked fresh, like she just bought them. Liam chuckled, a tired but kind sound. Yep. Some folks, they make it a point to come by regularly. Leave a little something. It's their way of keeping his memory alive, I reckon. Maya frowned. Regularly. Like monthly, weekly. Liam just winked. Some of them feels like daily, you'll see. Graceland's got its own rhythm and its own quiet mysteries. Pushed off the display case and headed off to guide a new group, leaving Maya with a peculiar feeling. A quiet mystery, that phrase resonated with her. In a place so dedicated to public spectacle, to fame and celebrity, to open adoration, there was something intriguing about these small, private acts of devotion. The woman with the white roses was just the beginning. Over the next few days, Maya started paying closer attention. She saw other small bouquets appear, a single, perfect red rose, a bunch of simple daisies. Sometimes a small handwritten note tucked discreetly among the petals, too faded or too private to read. It wasn't always older women. She saw a middle-aged man in a worn baseball cap, placing a sprig of what looked like rosemary. Another time, a young couple, no older than herself, left a tiny, colorful bouquet of wildflowers, their hands clasped as they stood silently. These weren't the flashbulbs, the cheering crowds, the loud proclamations of love. These were quiet, almost secret offerings. Each flower, each small gesture, felt like a whisper in the roar of Graceland. And Maya, the history student who preferred facts and dates, found herself drawn into the enigma. Who were these people? What stories did they carry that compelled them, decades after Elvis's death, to still come, still bring flowers, still whisper their silent tributes? It was more than just fandom. It felt like something deeper, something profoundly human. And for the first time, her summer internship at Graceland felt like it might be genuinely interesting. The more Maya observed, the more intrigued she became. It was like a silent, ongoing ritual performed by a rotating cast of characters. They didn't announce their presence, they didn't seek attention. They simply appeared, left their offerings, and departed. It was a stark contrast to the general hubbub of Graceland, the excited chatter of tourists, the constant flash of cameras. These flower leavers were quiet, almost reverent in their movements. Maya decided to start a mental log. She'd note the time, the type of flower, a brief description of the person. She even started trying to guess their stories. The silver-haired woman with the white roses, she decided, probably had a deeply personal memory, maybe from Elvis's early days. The man with the rosemary, perhaps a soldier remembering a time Elvis's music offered comfort. She tried to be discreet, not wanting to intrude on what felt like private moments. Her job wasn't to stalk visitors after all, but her curiosity gnawed at her. She spent more of her breaks near the meditation garden, pretending to be scrolling on her phone, but actually watching. One afternoon, Maya was helping in the gift shop, restocking Elvis-themed keychains and t-shirts, when she overheard a conversation between two longtime Graceland employees, Betty and Clarence. Betty was in her late 60s, with a kindly face and a fondness for dramatic pearl necklaces. Clarence, a few years younger, had a booming laugh and an encyclopedic knowledge of Elvis trivia. "Did you see the lilies this morning?" Betty asked Clarence, carefully arranging a stack of Graceland mugs. "So beautiful, Mrs. Henderson again, I imagine." Clarence nodded, polishing a framed photo of Elvis. Always lilies for her, bless her heart. Must have been doing it for 40 years now, at least. 40 years. Maya couldn't help but interject her voice a little too eager. "Who's Mrs. Henderson?" Betty and Clarence exchanged a look, a shared understanding passing between them. Betty smiled at Maya. "Oh, she's one of the regulars, lives just down the road. Her and her late husband. They were big fans, used to go to all his Memphis concerts. So she just comes and leaves flowers." Maya pressed. "Every week, every month?" Clarence chuckled. "More like every other day. Sometimes it's her routine. Her way of visiting an old friend, I suppose." Betty added, "A lot of people do, Maya. You see a fresh rose or a lily or a daisy and it's probably one of them. The silent guardians, I call them." Silent guardians. Maya liked the sound of that. It made the acts feel even more meaningful. They keep his memory alive, not just through tours and merchandise, but through simple, heartfelt gestures, Betty explained. It's not for show. It's personal. And it's been going on for as long as I've worked here. Later that week, Maya was assigned to help Mr. Henderson, the chief archivist, with his special project. Mr. Henderson was a soft-spoken man in his 70s, with thick-rimmed glasses and a mind like a steel trap when it came to Graceland's history. He'd been there since before Elvis died, starting as a groundskeeper and gradually moving into managing the estate's vast collection of memorabilia. Their task was to sort through a collection of fan letters from the 1950s and 60s, a fascinating glimpse into the frenzy of early Elvis mania. The letters were mostly from young girls gushing about his looks, his voice, his rebellious energy, but some of them were more profound, talking about how his music had lifted their spirits during difficult times, how it had brought joy to their otherwise ordinary lives. "You know," Mr. Henderson said quietly as Maya carefully placed, "people think of Elvis as a superstar, a legend. And he was, of course. But to a lot of people he was more than that. He was a comfort, a dream, a friend they never met." Maya looked up from a letter that described how Elvis's song had helped the girl through a family illness. "Like these letters?" He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Yes, like these, and like the flowers. Those aren't just for Elvis Presley, the king. They're for Elvis, the man who touched their lives in some way, for a specific memory, a feeling. It's a way of saying thank you, or of holding on to something precious." Paused, then continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "There are thousands like it, you just don't always hear them." Maya felt a shiver run down her spine. "Forget-me-nots." She'd always thought the flowers were just pretty decorations, but now she saw them as symbols, each carrying a silent narrative. The mystery wasn't just who left them, but why. What personal history, what deeply felt emotion did each bloom represent? Mr. Henderson seemed to sense her growing understanding. He picked up a faded photograph of Elvis from his desk, a casual snapshot from the late 60s. He had a way of connecting with people, even those he never met. It was more than just the music. It was his genuine heart, his spirit. And that's what lasts. That's what those flowers are truly about. Maya left the archives that day feeling a profound shift in her perspective. Graceland wasn't just a tourist attraction anymore. It was a living testament to a unique human connection, a place where the echoes of a singular life continue to resonate in the quiet offerings of ordinary people. The mystery wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a deeper understanding to be embraced. The next morning, Maya decided to make a deliberate effort. She bought a small, discreet notebook and a pen. Her mission wasn't to interview anyone, but simply to observe, to document, to perhaps catch a glimpse of the stories Mr. Henderson had hinted at. She felt a quiet excitement, like an amateur detective on the verge of uncovering a beautiful secret. She took her usual spot near the meditation garden, ostensibly checking her phone. The sun was already high, warming the stone and casting long shadows from the trees. The gentle murmur of visitors provided a constant backdrop. After about an hour, a familiar figure appeared. It was the woman with the silver hair, Eleanor, who Maya had first noticed. Today she carried a bouquet of deep red carnations. Maya noticed a small silver locket glinting at her throat. It was the sort of locket that held pictures, perhaps. Feeling a sudden uncharacteristic surge of boldness, Maya decided to try and make an innocent connection. Eleanor was still standing there, lost in thought. Maya took a deep breath and approached, offering a polite good morning. Eleanor startled slightly, then offered a kind, albeit hesitant, smile. "Good morning, dear." Her voice was soft with a gentle southern lilt. "Those are beautiful carnations," Maya said genuinely. "Thank you, they were his favorites, you know. Or at least I always imagined they were. He just seemed like a red carnation kind of man." She chuckled. "A delicate sound. You come here often?" Maya asked, trying to keep her tone casual. Eleanor nodded, her eyes still on the grave. "Every Tuesday, rain or shine, been doing it for a well longer than you've been alive." I imagine she turned to Maya, then, her gaze surprisingly direct. "My name's..." "Oh, wonderful. You must be learning a lot." I am, Maya admitted, especially about how much Elvis still means to people. Even now, she paused, then took a leap. Mr. Henderson, the archivist, he told me that some people have really personal reasons for leaving flowers. He called them silent guardians. Mr. Henderson is a very wise man, and yes, he's right. For many of us, it's more than just being a fan. It's a connection. She looked back at the grave. For me, it was a first love. Maya's eyebrows rose slightly. Mare look in her eyes. My very first concert, my parents took me to see him in Tupelo in '56. I sat so far back, he was just a speck on the stage, but the energy, the electricity, it was unforgettable. I kept every magazine clipping, every record. His music was the soundtrack to my teenage years, my first dances, the escape from the ordinary. So the flowers are for that? Maya asked, feeling the weight of the memory. Partly, Eleanor said. It's a way to remember that feeling, that time when everything felt possible, when music could transport you completely. And it's also a way to acknowledge the impact he had. He made me feel less alone, in a way, even though he was a superstar. His voice always felt like it was just for me. She pointed to the locket at her neck. This was my husband's. He wasn't much for Elvis. But he understood my Elvis was his lifelong rival for my devotion. When he passed, he told me, "Don't forget to visit your first love, honey." So I come, I bring the carnations. It's a quiet moment, just for me. And for him. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. This was about memory, about the indelible mark a person, even a famous one, could leave on an individual life. Eleanor wasn't just a fan. She was a keeper of a personal, precious history. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Eleanor," Maya said, genuinely moved. Eleanor smiled, a warm, genuine smile this time. It's good to have someone to share it with. Most people just see an old lady leaving flowers. They don't see the 15-year-old girl dancing in her bedroom to Jailhouse Rock. She patted Maya's arm gently. "You have a good day, dear. Maybe I'll see you next Tuesday." As Eleanor walked away, her silver hair catching the sun, Maya watched her, a new understanding dawning. The flowers weren't just tokens. They were stories. Unspoken narratives of connection, love, and remembrance. Eleanor's story was one of pure, innocent admiration. A first love played out on the grand stage of a superstar's life. Maya quickly scribbled Eleanor Red Carnations, first love, in her notebook. Quiet mystery was slowly, beautifully beginning to unfold. Eleanor's story stayed with Maya. It humanized the mystery in a way no historical document could. She wasn't just cataloging archival facts. Anymore, she was beginning to understand the emotional truth behind them. Her observations around the meditation garden became even more focused, less about general curiosity and more about listening, truly listening to the silent language of the flowers. A few days later, a new kind of visitor caught her eye. He was a man in his late 60s, with a neatly trimmed gray beard and kind, weary eyes. He wore a simple, faded denim shirt and a cap that read, "Vietnam Veteran." He held a single perfect white rose, its petals unfurling in delicate layers. He didn't approach the grave immediately. Instead, he stood a little way off, leaning against a tree, his gaze fixed on the spot where Elvis lay. He stayed there for a long time, just watching the ebb and flow of visitors, a quiet presence in the bustling garden. Maya wondered if he was gathering his thoughts, preparing himself for the private moment. When the crowd thinned a little, he finally approached the grave. He placed the white rose carefully, almost ceremonially, among the other flowers. Then he stood at attention for a moment, as if saluting before bowing his head. His shoulders trembled slightly. It wasn't a flamboyant display of grief, but a profound internal one. Maya felt a pull to approach him. His voice was gravelly, a smoker's voice perhaps. "I'm Maya, an intern here," she offered. I've been noticing how many people still bring flowers, even after all these years. He nodded slowly. Some things, they just stick with you. Some people, they never leave your heart. If you don't mind me asking, Maya continued, is there a special reason for the white rose? The man hesitated for a moment, then looked back at the grave. White for purity? I suppose, and for peace. Something I didn't have much of back then. He paused, a long silence stretching between them. I was in Vietnam. 68 to 69. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. That must have been incredibly difficult. He gave a dry chuckle. Difficult is an understatement. It was hell, pure, unadulterated hell. Noise, fear, death, everywhere you looked. We'd cling to anything that reminded us of home, of sanity. And Elvis's music was there for you, Maya prompted gently. More than just his music, the man said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. His gospel songs, we had a little portable record player, a battered old thing, and a few scratched Elvis records. Amazing Grace, How Great Thou Art. Crying in the chapel, we'd play them when we could. In the quiet moments, between the chaos. He closed his eyes for a moment as if reliving the memories. That voice, it was like a balm. It reminded you there was still beauty in the world, still hope, still something pure. It reminded you that you were human, not just a cog in a machine of war. It gave you comfort, Maya said. Understanding, comfort, and something more, he affirmed, opening his eyes. It gave us strength to keep going when you're facing death every day. A voice like that singing about faith and salvation. It can save you, in a way. It can save your spirit. He ran a hand over his beard. I made a promise to myself back then. If I made it out, if I got to come home, I'd thank him for every moment of peace his voice brought me. For a few minutes, forget the war, I made it home. And I've been keeping that promise ever since. He looked at the white rose. He'd placed a faint smile touching his lips. It's a small thing, a single rose, but it means the world to me. It's my way of saying, thank you, Elvis. You got me through. Maya was deeply moved. She'd heard stories of Vietnam, of course, read books, seen documentaries. To hear it from someone who had lived through it, and to hear how a voice, a song had been a lifeline, it was incredibly powerful. Thank you for sharing your story with me, Maya said, her voice a little thick. That's truly incredible. He nodded, a sense of peace settling over his face. You learn a lot about what truly matters in this life. When you've been to the edge, and kindness and hope and a good song, they matter. He tipped his cap slightly. You have a good day, Maya. Keep learning. There's more to this place than just the records on the wall. With that, he turned and walked away, a man carrying the weight of a past, but also the enduring comfort of a promise kept. Maya watched him go, then looked at the white rose nestled amongst the other flowers. Each one, she realized, was a silent testament to a life touched, a memory cherished, a debt of gratitude quietly repaid. The mystery wasn't about finding a singular answer, but about embracing the multitude of stories, each one a thread woven into the enduring tapestry of Elvis's legacy. She added a new entry to her notebook. Vietnam, veteran, white rose, soulless gratitude. The silent guardians indeed. Maya's perspective on Graceland was shifting dramatically. What had started as a simple summer job had become an unexpected journey into human connection and the enduring power of music. She was no longer just an intern. She was a quiet observer of devotion, an accidental keeper of untold stories. One sunny afternoon, as Maya was helping a new group find their way to the auto museum, she saw them. A young couple, perhaps in their late 20s or early 30s, holding hands. With them was a little girl, no older than 5, clutching a small, vibrant bouquet of mixed wildflowers, daisies, dandelions, some purple clover. It was a charming, almost childlike arrangement. They moved toward the meditation garden. The little girl with bright, curious eyes seemed particularly excited. She pointed at the statues, at the flowers already there, asking her parents questions in a sweet, clear voice. "Is that where the king sleeps, Papa?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart," her father replied, kneeling down to her level. "This is where our king rests." They approached Elvis's grave, and the little girl, with a serious expression, carefully placed her wildflowers next to a large, official-looking wreath. It was a strikingly humble offering among the grandeur, and Maya found it incredibly endearing. The parents then stood on either side of the little girl, each placing a hand on her shoulder. They didn't say anything, just stood there, observing, a quiet reverence in their posture. It was clear this wasn't just a casual visit. Maya waited for them to turn away, and when they did, she approached, a warm smile on her face. "Those are beautiful flowers," she said to the little girl. "Did you pick them yourself?" The girl nodded enthusiastically. For Elvis chuckled. "She insisted on picking them from our backyard this morning, said they were the perfect gift for the king." She looked at Maya. "I'm Sarah, and this is David, and our little artist here is Lily. Hi, I'm Maya. I'm an intern here." "Oh, that's wonderful," Sarah said. "We love coming here. We try to make it an annual pilgrimage." "And Lily seems to know all about Elvis already," Maya observed. "We make sure of it," David said, a proud smile on his face. "My grandmother. She was the biggest Elvis fan you could imagine, had every record, every movie, went to every concert she could. She introduced me to his music when I was just a little boy. She called him the voice that could move mountains," Sarah added, her eyes twinkling. "So the flowers are for your grandmother too, in a way?" Sarah nodded. "Absolutely. It's a way to keep her memory alive and to share her love for Elvis with Lily. When we come here, it feels like Grandma is with us right here, sharing in the experience," Lily piped up. "Grandma used to say Elvis made her feel happy when she was sad." "That's right, sweetheart," David said, ruffling Lily's hair. "He had a way of doing that for a lot of people." He looked at Maya. "You know, when I was growing up, I'd sometimes feel like it was a bit silly, being so obsessed with someone who had been gone for so long. But then you get older, and you realize it's not about obsession. It's about the joy, the comfort, the inspiration someone's art brings into your life, and how that connection can bridge generations. It's a legacy of love," Sarah concluded softly. "Grandma loved Elvis, and that love became a part of our family story, bringing Lily here, letting her pick the flowers. It's our way of continuing that story." Maya thought about her own grandmother, who had loved classical music. But the underlying sentiment was the same: the power of art to connect people, to create shared experiences and enduring memories. This wasn't a first love like Eleanor's, nor a lifeline like the veterans. This was a legacy, a thread in a family tapestry passed down through the generations. The wildflowers, simple and earnest, felt incredibly profound. "Thank you for sharing your story," Maya said, a genuine warmth spreading through her. "It's beautiful," David smiled. "It's a beautiful place, Maya, full of beautiful memories." He gestured around the garden. "And you'll find if you keep looking, every flower here has a story." As the family walked away, Lily skipping ahead, Maya felt a deeper layer of the mystery peel back. It wasn't just about individual memories of Elvis himself. It was about the way Elvis's life and music wove into the lives of his fans, becoming part of their personal and family histories. The flowers were not just tributes to a king, but monuments to cherished human connections. She added to her notebook, "Lily and parents, wildflowers, inherited legacy, family connection, remembrance of grandma." The silent guardians were more diverse than she could have imagined, their reasons as varied and rich as the human experience itself. Maya spent the next week in the archives, diligently cataloging. The letters and photographs, once just historical artifacts, now seemed imbued with new meaning. She saw the hopes, dreams, and profound affections of a generation. She pulled out old newspaper clippings about Elvis's generosity, stories of him helping friends, family, and even strangers in need. It painted a picture of a complex man far beyond the rhinestone jumpsuits and swivel hips. She started seeing patterns in the flower offerings. Not just types of flowers, but also the manner in which they were left. Some were placed quickly, almost furtively, as if the person wanted to avoid drawing attention. Others were left with a quiet, lingering presence, a moment of profound communion. One afternoon, she noticed a man in his late 50s, dressed impeccably in a well-tailored suit. Despite the Memphis heat, he carried a single, long-stemmed yellow rose. He wasn't a tourist. He moved with the assured air of someone familiar with the grounds. He didn't queue with the tour groups, but walked directly to the meditation garden, his stride purposeful. He stood before Elvis's grave, the yellow rose held almost like a conductor's baton. He didn't appear sad or sentimental, but rather thoughtful, almost analytic. He placed the rose carefully, then stepped back, his hands clasped behind his back, his gaze sweeping over the garden. Maya, feeling a new boldness after her previous encounters, approached him. "Excuse me," she began. "That's a lovely yellow rose." The man turned, his expression unreadable at first, then softening slightly. "Thank you, it's a favorite color of mine. Represents friendship, doesn't it?" "It does," Maya confirmed. "I'm Arthur," he replied, offering a brief, firm handshake. "I work in architecture, mostly historical preservation now, but I used to design music venues." Maya's eyes widened. "Really? That's fascinating." "Indeed," Arthur said, looking back at the grave. "I never had the privilege of meeting Mr. Presley, but his music, it shaped the trajectory of my life." "How so?" Maya asked, intrigued. "My parents were both classical musicians. Very strict, very traditional," Arthur explained. "They wanted me to follow in their footsteps, to play the cello, and I hated it. I was terrible at it. Frankly, I felt stifled, trapped in a world that wasn't mine." He paused, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Then one day, I heard Blue Suede Shoes on the radio. I was 10 years old, and it was like a lightning bolt. The energy, the rebellion, the sheer joy of it, it opened my eyes to a whole different kind of music, a different kind of performance." "And that influenced your career choice?" Maya asked profoundly, Arthur confirmed. "It ignited a passion in me, not just for rock and roll, but for the spaces where such magic could happen. I started sketching stages, concert halls, imagining Fijian stages. The perfect, yes. I helped design several theaters and auditoriums across the country. I wanted to create places where artists could inspire others, just as Elvis had inspired me. The yellow rose is a thank you for showing a 10-year-old boy that there was a different path, a different kind of beauty, a different rhythm to life than the one prescribed for him. You built your dreams, in a way, on the foundation he laid," Maya said, feeling the weight of his words. "Precisely," Arthur agreed. "He was an unwitting mentor and architect of my dreams. His music, his presence, it gave me the courage to pursue my own passion, even if it wasn't what my parents envisioned. It taught me that it was okay to be different, to follow your own beat." He looked around the meditation garden, his gaze sweeping over the other flowers. "I often wonder about the stories behind all these. Every bloom a memory, every petal a feeling. It's truly remarkable, isn't it? How one person can touch so many lives, in so many unique ways, for so long." "It is," Maya agreed, her admiration for these silent guardians growing with each encounter. It's like a living history. Arthur nodded, then turned to Maya. You're doing important work here, young lady, not just cataloging the past, but understanding how it lives on in the present. Keep listening. The quiet stories are often the most profound. He offered her another polite professional nod, and then turned to leave his suit jacket shimmering slightly in the sun. Maya watched him go, a new entry for her notebook already forming in her mind. Arthur, yellow rose, inspiration, finding own path, architect of dreams. She realized that the flowers weren't just about personal loss or fond memories. They were also about profound influence, about the subtle ways a public figure could shape private destinies, inspiring creativity, courage, and the pursuit of one's true calling. The enduring mystery was becoming less about a single answer and more about the beautiful, intricate web of human experiences that continued to bloom around Elvis Presley's grave. Maya's internship was nearing its end, and with each passing day she felt more connected to Graceland, not just as a workplace, but as a place of profound human stories. She had stopped trying to solve the mystery of the flowers. Instead, she was simply appreciating the silent testimonies they represented. She still carried her small notebook, a growing compendium of quiet devotions. One afternoon, a young woman, perhaps in her mid-20s, caught Maya's attention. She had vibrant, dyed blue hair and several intricate tattoos peeking out from under her sleeves. She held a small potted succulent, something unique among the bouquets and cut flowers. Her expression was thoughtful, almost introspective, as she navigated the path to the meditation garden. She didn't place the succulent directly on the grave. Instead, she found a small, discreet spot to the side, near a decorative stone bench, and carefully set the pot down. It felt less like an offering and more like she was simply placing it there for Elvis to enjoy, to grow alongside his memory. She sat on the bench for a few minutes, simply looking at the grave, not crying or displaying overt emotion. Just a quiet contemplation. Maya felt a particular pull to this person, perhaps because she was closer to her own age. Her appearance a modern contrast to the older, more traditional visitors. When the young woman rose to leave, Maya took a breath and approached. "Excuse me," she said gently. "That's a beautiful succulent." "It's so different." The young woman turned, a slight smile gracing her lips. "Thanks. It's a Haworthia, pretty resilient, you know, and it lives a long time." "I'm Maya, an intern here," Maya offered. "Jess," the woman replied, her voice soft but clear. "Nice to meet you. If you don't mind me asking, is there a special reason you brought that particular plant?" Maya asked, gesturing towards the succulent. Jess hesitated for a moment, then looked back at the plant. "Yeah, there is. It's kind of a weird story, though. I didn't grow up with Elvis. My parents weren't into him. I'm more of a punk rock, indie music person." Honestly, Maya nodded, surprised. "But a few years ago," Jess continued, "I was going through a really rough time, like rock bottom, anxiety, depression. Just couldn't see a way out. I was feeling totally lost, like nothing made sense." "I'm sorry to hear that," Maya said genuinely. "It's okay now," Jess said, a small, brave smile. "But back then, I was desperate for anything that felt solid, anything that felt real, and one night I just happened to stumble onto an old documentary about Elvis on TV. It wasn't even a concert film, just something about his life, his struggle. So he became a kind of anchor for you," Maya suggested. "Exactly," Jess said, her eyes lighting up. "He made me feel less alone, even though he was a ghost from the past. His music gave me a place to put all my jumbled feelings. It helped me feel, and eventually it helped me heal." "And the succulent?" Maya asked. "So I started getting into plants around the same time, learning to care for something. Watching it grow, it was very therapeutic and Haworthius, They're tough, they thrive on neglect. Almost, but they also need a little bit of light. A little bit of care, just like people do right. It reminds me that even when things are hard, you can still find strength, and that even if you never meet someone, their art, their spirit, can still reach across time and touch you. Help you. To say, hey, your story, your music, it still matters. It still helps people. It's my quiet thank you to someone who helped me when no one else could, even though he never knew me. I guess. Maya felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This was perhaps the most unexpected story yet. Someone who had no direct historical connection, no generational link, yet found profound solace and inspiration in Elvis's legacy. It spoke volumes about the timeless universal power of art and empathy. Thank you, Jess, Maya said, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. That's a beautiful reason. Jess smiled, her blue hair a vibrant splash of color against the green of the garden. You know, this place isn't just about history. It's about how history keeps living, right? In small ways. Every single day. She nodded politely and walked away, her steps light. Maya looked at the resilient succulent, then back at Elvis's grave. The unseen connections, the silent help, the enduring comfort. The mystery wasn't just about who knew Elvis, but who he still knew in the quiet, profound ways he touched lives across generations. Maya added to her notebook. Jess, potted, succulent, comfort healing, unseen connection. Timeless power of art. The layers of the mystery were endless, each one more heartwarming than the last. As her internship drew to a close, Maya found herself spending less time trying to analyze the phenomenon of the flowers and more time simply appreciating it. The notebook was full of observations, but the real insights were etched in her heart. She'd learned that the mystery wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a profound, ongoing testament to the human spirit. She started seeing the entire Graceland estate differently. It wasn't just a meticulously preserved home or a sprawling museum. It was a focal point for something intangible and powerful. Memory, gratitude, inspiration, and enduring love. The flowers weren't just decorative. They were the silent, constant conversation between Elvis Presley and the countless lives he had touched. Maya even started recognizing some of the silent guardians and would offer a quiet nod or a knowing smile if they caught her eye. There was the elderly couple who always left 2 small, identical bouquets of forget-me-nots, one for each of them. Maya imagined it was a shared memory, a soundtrack to their own decades-long love story. There was the young musician who left a single white gardenia, perhaps inspired by Elvis's ability to transcend genres and touch souls. One afternoon, Mr. Henderson, the chief archivist, found Maya sitting on a bench near the meditation garden during her break, just watching. Deep in thought, Maya? He asked kindly, settling beside her. Just watching the flowers, Mr. Henderson, she replied, and thinking about all the stories. He nodded, his gaze sweeping over the vibrant blooms. It's quite a tapestry, isn't it? Everyone a thread of memory, of emotion? It's changed my perspective entirely, Maya admitted. Before this summer, Elvis was just a famous person, a historical figure. Now I feel like I understand why he still matters so much, on such a personal level, to so many people. That's the heart of the matter, Mr. Henderson said softly. His talent was immense, his fame unparalleled, but it was his humanity that truly resonated, his generosity, his vulnerability, his genuine spirit. People saw themselves in him, even as they idolized him. They felt a personal connection. He continued, think about it, in a world that often feels cold and disconnected, an artist, a voice can bridge that gap. Elvis wasn't just singing songs, he was delivering emotions. And for those who received that gift, often at pivotal moments in their lives, that connection became sacred, Maya mused. Or the veteran, finding solace in gospel music during the war. or Jess finding healing when she was lost. Exactly, Mr. Henderson affirmed. Each flower isn't just a tribute to a legend. It's a thank you from a heart that was touched, a spirit that was lifted. It's a profound act of remembrance, a way of saying, you mattered to me, your music, your life. It made a difference. It's also people like Lily carrying on a family tradition, or Jess discovering him generations later. The connection isn't dying out. No, it isn't, Mr. Henderson said, a note of quiet pride in his voice, because the emotions he evoked are timeless. Love, joy, hope, sadness, faith. These are universal. And as long as people feel those emotions, as long as they need comfort, inspiration, or just a good song to dance to, Elvis's legacy will endure, and so will the flowers. Maya looked at the gravestone, no longer just a cold slab of marble, but a silent receiver of countless whispers of gratitude and love. She thought about her initial curiosity, the mystery she had set out to uncover. She realized now that the mystery wasn't about finding a singular answer, but about embracing the beautiful, multifaceted truth of human connection. The enduring mystery wasn't why people still left flowers. It was why they started in the first place, and why that profound connection continued to resonate across time and generations. The flowers weren't a puzzle. They were a living, breathing testament to the power of one person to touch many, and the enduring human need to remember, to honor, and to say thank you. Her summer at Graceland had been far more than a history internship. It had been a lesson in empathy, in the quiet power of remembrance, and in the timeless magic of a voice that could truly move mountains and hearts. As August dawned, the relentless Memphis heat seemed to settle even deeper, but Naya barely noticed. Her time at Graceland was winding down, and a strange mix of accomplishment and melancholy settled over her. She'd finished her archival work, meticulously cataloging boxes of fan mail and concert programs, but the real learning had happened outside the controlled environment of the archives, under the hot sun. Among the pilgrims of Graceland, she had developed a routine of her own. Each morning before the main throngs of tourists arrived, she would walk through the meditation garden. She wouldn't linger or stare, just a quiet pass observing the fresh additions to the floral tribute. She could almost tell the time of day by the types of flowers she saw. The early morning lilies from Mrs. Henderson, the mid-morning carnations from Eleanor, the sporadic but always pristine white roses from the veteran. Each new bloom was a greeting from one of the silent guardians, a whisper in the quiet dawn. One of her last tasks was to help prepare a small temporary exhibit on fan tributes throughout Elvis's career. She spent hours sifting through old photographs of fans holding up banners, throwing flowers onto stages, leaving gifts at the gates of Graceland even before his death. She saw the evolution of their adoration from youthful screams to quiet, dignified remembrance. "It's amazing, isn't it?" she remarked to Mr. Henderson one afternoon, holding up a faded photo of a mountain of flowers at Graceland from the late 1970s. The sheer volume of love. "It's overwhelming," he agreed, "but it's also incredibly personal. Each one of those flowers, each of those gifts, represented a specific feeling from a specific person. It's easy to see the crowd, but harder to see the individual hearts. That's what I feel like I've learned this summer," Maya said. "To see the individual hearts." She thought about Eleanor, Arthur, Jess, the veteran, the young family with Lily. They weren't just fans. They were people with rich, complex lives whose paths had intersected with Elvis in meaningful ways. She remembered Jess's words about the unseen connection. It resonated deeply. She herself had never had a personal connection to Elvis growing up in a world where he was already a legend. But through the stories of others, through the silent language of the flowers, she had begun to forge her own connection. Not one of adoration, perhaps, but one of understanding and profound respect for the impact of a singular human being. Her final day arrived sooner than she expected. She spent the morning packing up her desk, saying goodbye to Liam and Betty, who wished her well and told her to come back any time. Mr. Henderson gave her a thoughtful parting gift, a small, framed print of Graceland at sunset, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson," Maya said, genuinely touched. "Thank you for everything. This summer has been enlightening. I had a feeling it would be," he said, his eyes twinkling behind his glasses. "You came here looking for facts and figures, and you found something much deeper. That's the real history, Maya, the one written in people's hearts." She left the archives one last time, the weight of the summer settling on her shoulders. She had learned so much more than archival procedures. She had learned about loyalty, about the enduring power of music, about the quiet dignity of grief and remembrance, and about the beautiful, unending echoes of a life lived. The enduring mystery of the flowers was no longer a puzzle, but a testament, a heartwarming truth. Before heading to the main gates for her ride to the bus station, Maya made one last stop. She walked towards the meditation garden, her steps slower than usual. The sun was beginning to dip, casting long golden shadows across the lawn. The garden was quieter now, most of the day's tourists having departed. She stood for a moment, simply absorbing the atmosphere, the quiet hum of memory that seemed to permeate the air. She looked at the graves, at the endless array of flowers, the lilies, the carnations, the white roses, the wildflowers, the single yellow rose, the resilient, succulent, each one a story, a whisper, a silent guardian. A profound sense of gratitude washed over her. Gratitude for the experience, for the people she'd met, for the unexpected insight she'd gained. She realized she wanted to leave something not as an intern, not as an observer, but as someone who had now truly seen and understood. The setting sun cast a warm golden glow over the meditation garden, painting the trees and the marble monuments in hues of amber and rose. Most of the tourists had left for the day, leaving Graceland to a quieter, more reflective atmosphere. This was Maya's last evening. Her bus was due to depart in an hour. She had intended to simply observe one last time, to take a mental snapshot of the living memorial that had become so much more than a job. But as she stood there, looking at the countless flowers, each a silent message from a devoted heart, a quiet impulse took hold of her. She walked away from the garden towards the small florist den just outside the Graceland gates, a place she had visited often, but only as an observer. Kind florist, a woman with bright, knowing eyes, recognized her. "Last day, honey?" the florist asked. A gentle smile. "Yes, my internship's over." "Well, you come back and see us," the florist said. "You're good people." Maya looked at the array of flowers, no longer seeing just colors and shapes, but stories and emotions. She thought of Eleanor's first love, the veteran's solace, Arthur's inspired dreams, Jess's healing journey, and the family's enduring legacy. She thought of the countless others she hadn't met, whose silent offerings lay before her. She picked out a single deep red rose. "It felt right. Just one?" the florist asked, but her tone was understanding, not questioning. "Just one," Maya confirmed, handing over the money. This wasn't about grandeur, it was about connection, about an unspoken thank you. She walked back to the meditation garden, the single rose carefully clutched in her hand. The air was cooling slightly, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the ancient trees. She approached Elvis Presley's grave, no longer with the objective gaze of a history student, but with the quiet reverence of someone who had truly begun to understand. She paused, taking a deep breath. This was her moment, her silent offering, her final acknowledgement of a summer that had unexpectedly transformed her. She wasn't a lifelong fan. She hadn't seen him perform live. She hadn't shared a personal memory with him. But she had seen the profound impact he had on so many lives, and in doing so, she had found her own connection. With a gentle, almost reverent motion, she placed the red rose among the myriad of other blooms. It lay there, a vibrant splash of color, a silent whisper in a choir of shared devotion. She didn't stay long, just a moment. Her head bowed in quiet contemplation. She felt a sense of peace, a quiet warmth spreading through her chest. The enduring mystery of the flowers wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a beautiful truth to be experienced. It was a collective heartbeat of a love that transcended time, a testament to the enduring power of music and the profound, almost spiritual connection between an artist and those whose lives they touch. As Maya turned to leave the garden for the very last time, she glanced back at the grave, at the single red rose she had added to the ever-growing collection. It was a small gesture, but it felt immense. She was no longer just an intern observing a phenomenon. She was now a part of it, one of the silent guardians, acknowledging the beautiful, enduring legacy of a king whose heart had truly touched the world. The Memphis air still felt thick and humid, but now to Maya it smelled faintly of magnolias and an unspoken, timeless love. She walked out of the gates of Graceland, carrying not just a memory of an internship, but a profound understanding of the human heart and the quiet, unending story of the flowers.